So what are we talking about today?
All right, today's topic. So it is tips for owning quote unquote covers for the DIY rockstar, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But as DIY rockstars, a lot of times we will end up doing covers so that we can draw people's attention to us more quickly because people already know the material.
Right.
However, our goal as DIY rockstars is to bring people's attention to our originals. So there are ways that you can use those covers to get people to be a fan of your original music, and that's what our topic covers today.
All right, so what's the first thing you want to do?
Okay, so the first tip for owning covers for the DIY rockstar is make sure you are having fun. Make sure you choose a cover that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, but also you have to choose a cover, at least in my mind.
Okay.
The way you're actually injecting your personality into it.
Oh,
so
we're gonna get to
you know,
okay, all right.
So meaning this is that, I mean, it's one thing to choose it because you're having fun doing it, but sometimes you can have fun doing a cover because people feel like you sound just like the artist.
Okay.
And so people are into it and the rest of that kind of stuff. So, that makes it fun for you to do that because you know, hey, when I do this, people are kind of into that. So, a thing you don't want to fall into, and we're probably going to hit on this a little bit later too, is that, you know, where it's karaoke.
Right. No.
It's something different than that. So what you want to do is you want to choose a cover that's fun because of the fact that you have made it your own. Okay. So that you have been able to inject part of your personality into it. And sometimes I think that it's helpful if you choose a cover from an artist that you're not deeply influenced by.
Okay, I like
but
that.
But that you like the record. And so this is not a particular artist who, you know, you've kind of grown up admiring and trying to imitate.
Okay,
as much as an artist that, hey, I like this particular song by this artist, and when I sing it this way. Mm-hmm. So that you don't have in your head a certain way of singing it where you're basically imitating the artist.
Right, no, we don't want that.
I think you can explore more of yourself within the song.
Okay, right. And that, so thank you. That ties nicely to point number 2 for tips for owning covers for DIY rockstars.
Right.
Is you want to sell, viewers or listeners on your own personality. So that would be kind of injecting not only your style but also your own personality. So even when I've seen when people cover songs, they try to act like, you know, sing like, act like, sound like the artist.
Because I've heard artists covering like "Leave the Door Open" and the song with what's his name, Bruno Mars, you know, and Anderson Hunt, right?
Pop.
Anderson Hunt is a basketball player. Anderson Pop.
Okay.
So me and they try to, you know, sing it as smoothly and silky like those guys do it.
Right.
And what you end up getting again is karaoke, and that's fine if you're a wedding band, if you're a covers band, and basically, and I don't mean this in a derogatory fashion, but you are a human jukebox machine, and you and I really I don't. I mean, because sometimes it's sort of like. That's what you look for. You look for these bands that can replicate records exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and there are people out there who do it and who do it well.
And they're live.
You know,
so
and
it's a live band.
It's a live band, but you kind of bring that and you sound like the record and you entertain people with that, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But this is going towards the person who's saying, hey, I'm an artist, I got songs out, and I'm gonna do this cover, and you using the cover as a gateway drug for what you do.
Yeah.
And so that's why you want to be able to infuse your personality into it.
Yeah.
So you would like to get a cover that, you know, is likely not an artist that I said before, that you already imitate.
Yeah.
But it's kind of known to your audience where you're able to kind of inject yourself into whatever the cover is.
Yeah.
You know, and explore it a little bit more creatively.
Okay, good. Well, that ties to the next point. Thank you. So number 3 for points for tips on how to own covers for the DIY Rockstar is make the cover, if you can, actually sound similar to the genre of music of your original.
Yeah.
So that is like a real gateway, because not only do people know the cover, but the way you have done it, when they hear the cover and then they hear your song come on after your original, they're already saying, hey, well, I like that first song, so I automatically kind of have a hankering for that second one.
And sometimes it could just be like you can have a chord progression that brings to mind certain songs in your head. You know?
What do you mean?
That you can have, I mean, again, there's not an infinite amount of chord progressions within pop music, right? So when you are doing a chord progression for your song, you're probably more than likely traversing territory that other artists have explored. Right? So you can sing their melody or a melody on top of your particular chord progression, which may not be the correct chord progression for that particular song. But because of the fact that you're singing it on top of this chord progression that you're doing, it brings that variation. And not only that, you can make that connection to your song. So as they call it, what? Interpolation, right? So they call it that, where you basically, kind of pull in that song and sing on top of it. So there's the Ed Sheeran song, I forget the name of it, but anyway, it's a song that he got sued about. Where you could basically sing "Let's Get It On" right on top of it. You know what I mean? But there are other songs that aren't that close. Where you can just kind of sing a song on top of it. I know before when we were doing like gospel music at at a church, I had this chord progression that I was that I was playing on piano, and so there were a myriad of songs that I could sing on top of that chord progression, which I did. So that when we went into church service and I was kind of like, for lack of a better word, the piano player for the church, which kind of let you know how desperate the church was at that time. I mean, it was just growing and just starting out. I was able to sing a couple of different gospel songs on top of that, right? And by doing that, it gave those songs a different flavor.
It really did.
And it gave it a flavor that kind of belonged to that church.
And it it was such a flavor that when we started doing originals, a lot of the parishioners thought that the covers that we were doing were our own originals because of some of those same.
So that was kind of going back to another point, and that is that we were pretty limited as far as what we had. It was like there was one kind of musician, which was me, and so I had like my acoustic guitar and I had like a looper pedal, and so what I tried to do was any covers that we did, I had to fit it within that realm. So I didn't take like karaoke versions of those songs and use those as much as I said, well, I want them to blend well with the originals. So I gave them the same treatment as the originals. And some of the chords, really all I did was, as I was learning songs, is I just started realizing you can break things down to major and minor chords. And so that's pretty much what I do. Is like, okay, this sounds like a major chord, this sounds like a minor chord. I didn't go into, all the extensions, going into all diminished chords and all the rest of that kind of, they might have been playing that in the song. So I simplified them in that way, where you simplify the chord progressions and then start singing those songs over that. And so that's what kind of gave it the same feel. And that's the same way that you can do with when you're covering stuff, is that don't learn songs verbatim. Leave room for inspiration and for you to improvise.
I like that.
Always leave room for that. Always leave room for yourself. I mean, you have to take that particular approach.
That's like the essence of DIY Rockstar, right?
Yeah, you have to do that when you're doing a cover.
I like that. All right, which takes us to the next point. Thank you. Point number 4. For owning covers for DIY Rockstars, don't try to sound like the original. Instead, give us a reason to listen to both the original and yours.
Right. Yeah. Or sometimes maybe it's just that thing. It's like, maybe people wouldn't even like the original.
Yeah, we were talking about that with who did the sexual healing? It was
well, there's a couple of people did it. Soul Asylum,
and I used to love it, and it was its own thing, right? And I would listen to them alongside of the original. So it wasn't like, oh, this replaces the original. It wasn't trying to. It was its own thing.
Right. You know, and it was weird because I kind of ripped off Ben Harper's version of that.
Right.
For, you know, a kind of gospel song that we did.
Yeah.
And then I would take a version of that gospel song that I ended up putting on the Lupo paddle, and then I would sing Jamming by Bob Marley on top of that.
Right.
You know, so it was like, just, again, allow yourself an opportunity to really flow with the music.
Yeah.
And just go wherever it takes you. Another song that we were able to kind of put on top of everything was like Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, there's a myriad of grooves and chord progressions that singing Ain't No Stopping Us Now, we're on the move, that just fits on top of tons of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and so we were able to kind of keep throwing that in there with different things. So again, there's so many different ways that you can cover songs in ways that are a bit unorthodox. You know, where sometimes I know it's like, at one time when I was practicing You Got to Hide Your Love Away by the Beatles.
Yeah.
And I really don't think I had anything new to add to that song.
Okay.
So the way that I would do it was really imitating the way that the Beatles did it.
Okay.
And so for me, that would not be a good cover to do.
Right. Okay.
Because, you know, I'm always going to sound like a poor man's version of John Lennon singing that song.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to bring to that song what he did, which really for him, he felt like he was covering Bob Dylan.
Right.
When he did that. So that's the artist he was imitating. So the thing you want to do is you want to do, and I'm not saying it's going to be this great, but you want to do what Jimi Hendrix did to All Along the Watchtower. All Along the Watchtower is a Bob Dylan song.
Right.
Right? Jimi Hendrix covered it. Made it his own. Right? You want to do what Aretha Franklin did with Respect.
Oh, yeah.
That was a song by Otis Redding, right?
Because I didn't even know anybody else sang it. And she owned that one. Yeah.
She completely owned that song, you know? Or like Knocking on Heaven's Door. Randy Crawford did such a version of that. I mean, I heard Bob Dylan's version. I was like, I can't hear it.
I know.
You know, I cannot listen to it. And I know as a friend of mine that came to me and he said, oh man, you know, you got to hear like Boyz II Men version of Yesterday. That he felt like they just really knocked it out of the park. He was like, oh my God, I can't even listen to that Beatles
original,
version. Or Hello, Goodbye. Our daughter heard a version of that on Glee.
Oh yeah.
And she doesn't even like the Beatles, but she loves that version of that song.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what you want to do, is that you want to be able to make these songs your own. You also want them to, you know, show more of a mirror about who you are as an artist than it does reflecting who the artist was that did the song.
Yeah, and that actually is a win-win. That's one of those, I call them hacks. Work smart, not hard.
Yeah.
And then finally, the tip that we cannot stress enough, because legally you do need to do this. So number 5, the 5th tip for owning covers, you know, you can't really own their work, but you do need to get it cleared. Yeah, just putting a disclaimer that says this work is not my own
is not enough. Yeah. So always remember that, you know, there are always, when you're listening to music, you know, a lot of times there's 2 copyrights that really attach to something. There's a copyright in the actual composition itself, and that's what we're talking about covering, right? And then there's a copyright in the sound recording. So where people who sample music run it, because people who sample music are really good at doing this too. You know, people who know how, who are really creative with their samples, they will take samples and make something new out of it. Yeah. You know, I take my hat off to them, because to be able to hear that snippet and to dig out what they dig out of those snippets is an unbelievable talent. Yeah. But, you know, what happens is that you invoke two other copyrights. There's one in the sound recording, which usually the record companies own, and there's one with respect to the composition itself, which the publishers, songwriters, they definitely own. So if you're covering a song, what you want to worry about is the composition. So the publisher, the songwriter, you want to do that. And I think it's like Harry Fox Agency, one of those that you can kind of go through to get whatever clearances you need to get.
Yeah, you definitely need to do that unless it's in the public domain. So, so make sure you do that, because I know there were people complaining on Facebook that they were taking their videos down because they weren't cleared covers.
Right. Yeah.
But that's going to happen no matter where you go, because it's illegal. You're really stealing.
Yeah. I mean, what you're doing is you're making a copy that's unauthorized. So that's the thing that you don't want to do. And going back to the public domain thing is that, I had to watch that when we were doing a Christmas album a while back. I think I did a cover of Little Drummer Boy, and it was not in the public domain, and so I couldn't really do that one. But all the other songs that we ended up selecting were all songs that were in the public domain.
Yeah, so you can just do a Google search and figure that out. But but I think that's really important. So especially if you're a DIY rock star and you really want to jettison your own songwriting, your originals. You want to make sure you give others the same respect that you want others, to you want others to treat you the way you treat.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that with respect to covers too, don't disrespect it. So meaning that, give it the same thing that you put into the things that you write. Because whether you know it or not, I mean, Jimi Hendrix had one hit. And that was All Along the Watchtower.
Oh wow!
That was his smash, And so a lot of times, your smash might be a cover.
No, who was it? Simple Minds.
Right? Yeah.
Don't you forget about me?
No, it was one that somebody else wrote.
It wasn't a cover. I got you.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
It's the same thing with Aretha Franklin. It's like respect. I mean, that's a cover. I mean, so and there's a lot of things that's within her catalog that either other people wrote or were covers. So Save a Little Prayer for Me, that was a cover. So I mean, so again, don't poo-poo it. Because really, I mean, it could become somewhat of a signature for you.
Yeah, it could.
You can really kind of put your stamp on something with a cover, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't diminish you as a songwriter. I think, people will still say, hey, Jimi Hendrix was a great songwriter, even though, his greatest hit was a cover.
Wow, well, that's cool. All right. So what do you guys think? What tip would you give a DIY rock star who wants to quote unquote own a cover tune? We'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments below. What else?
Oh yeah, you always know we got Sugar Pit. So Sugar Pit's everywhere for streaming. You can get it from Bandcamp. You can get it from us. So any place where you stream music, be it Apple, be it Spotify, be it Amazon, wherever it might be.
Deezer, Tidal.
Right, CD Baby, wherever. Just go and check out Sugar Pit.
And then if you want the vinyl, don't forget Patreon link is below.
That's right.
If you dig the vibe and you want to be a part of the tribe, be sure to
subscribe.
We're wishing you love, peace, and